The vitriol on social media towards the Spurs board, the manager, the coaching staff, and the players is beginning to reach unprecedented heights, certainly since Big Ange took over barely 18 months ago. Is it deserved? Is it how the match going fans feel too? Or are expectations far too high, considering we're going through the League's biggest injury crisis? I'm talking to Spurred on regular Jorri about that, his thoughts on the Fulham game, and whether we can bounce back once again at Bournemouth on Thursday. Hi, Jorri, how you doing?
I'm good, Barnaby. How about yourself?
Um, yes, I mean, I just said to you just off air, didn't I? Starting to get bored talking about Fulham already, but you rightly said there are still some things to discuss. Maybe bored is the wrong word. Maybe I'm just like I was so frustrated after the game, and then it
Mhm.
took me kind of 24 hours to calm down. And as I said on my video yesterday, a lot of that was because of the refereeing, I think. Um,
Mhm.
so there's still stuff to talk about for sure, but I'm really keen, yeah, to kind of get on with thinking about Bournemouth and hopefully putting things straight. But I want to start really, Yori, by asking you what your thoughts were when you saw the lineup before the Fulham game. Were you kind of resigned to the likelihood that we wouldn't win, as I was?
Yeah. And also I thought a little bit kind of like, oh, interesting. He's resting more than I had expected. And yeah, I definitely thought we would probably go and have the kind of game that we did have, and at one point I thought it more likely that we would lose than manage to get the draw. So maybe you should look at it in that manner because they were the team that deserved to win that game in my view. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree. It's interesting, isn't it? One thing that I really picked up on, obviously, all season there are the reactive people on social media who've been asking for us to be more pragmatic, sit deeper, kind
Mhm.
of like we do against Manchester City and hit on the break. And that is what we did do against Fulham. And obviously,
Mhm.
the same people are livid about it.
Yeah. Yeah. You can't win. I mean, even though fans are the best and all of that, and they are all kinds and have all kinds of narratives or sides and whatever, it kind of you don't. I don't think any knowledgeable fan would want fan kind of fan temperament to run their club. So it's good that we are not at least a couple of days after the games. At least we're not part of the decision making. Then that's probably pretty good, I think.
Yeah, and look, like I said, I think on a video yesterday, the reality is we don't know what's going on behind the closed doors of
No.
that training ground. We don't know what they're seeing every day, and this is you mentioned earlier you were maybe I think you said a little surprised to see that he was resting some players there. I feel like we're talking about Decky. Do you think that was the right game to rest
Well,
Decky?
I mean, I don't know. I would. I guess. I mean, I don't know. It's difficult to say. You could have made a case for having that forward line against Roma, and that and resting him there and
Mm.
having him as a backup there rather than starting him. You could make the case for Bournemouth. Of course, I think all of us kind of understand we need to try and have our squad at the top performance level when Chelsea come around. But yeah, it's not an easy one, and I'm not happy or unhappy either way. Maybe what you could say if you want to be critical about it is like the fitness levels, yeah, they're good, but they're clearly not good enough to sustain Ange-ball
Mm.
to the magnitude of games that you have in the kind of seasons that we hope to have, like be in Europe and be in the cups and so on. Then it at least at this point it's very taxing on the squad for sure, and the injuries is probably also one kind of outcome of that heavy workload that they have to submit to. So
That's
yeah.
true, and obviously we've talked a bit, and everyone talks a bit about the kind of training regime and how that creates muscle injuries, and did do at
Mm.
Celtic in his first season. But also there have been a fair share of unlucky injuries as well, haven't there? I mean, the
Mhm.
Vicario injury, is
For
just a bit of
sure.
it's a random one. Obviously, Mikey Moore's illness, Romero, you would call it's not a muscle injury, but it's one that is, I guess, self-inflicted. And obviously
Yeah.
Bentancur's suspension. So there's been some bad luck too. But how big?
Yes and no, Barnaby. I would say, like, as a father of five, if I have a kid sitting in the sofa with a book most days, versus a kid that runs around the house and the yard screaming, the latter kid is probably gonna get injured a little bit more. We kind of play that kind of football as the
Mm,
latter, we storm about as much as possible. So, and I'm not using it as an argument that we shouldn't do that. I absolutely love when we do that, but the question is, and I've said it before, just even not connected to ants, but just as a principle. In principle, is it viable in the Premier League, in the most difficult and most physical league in the
mm,
world? And I do think you can look at Liverpool and Klopp and say,
yeah.
it's not really viable. You can get 1, 2 seasons, and then you probably need a complete rebuild, or like they're going to be broke after that, because it is at another level. But also we're at the start of this, so I don't really want to use that as an excuse for.
No.
But you could also be concerned and say, like, they should really be peaking in that regard at this moment, and are they? I don't know. In some games, yeah. Other games, not so much. But I was thinking about that because I was thinking about my other comments about the culture and stuff like that. And then watching the last game, I really saw the fatigue as well. And I thought, okay, but how much is just also mental fatigue in terms of this, So, um, and because even though they might have that in different seasons, Ball and whatever, you have those are structured in a way where you have a little moment where you can recover a little, and that's not really when we're going full on Ange-balls. You don't get any of those moments till after the game, So yeah,
Is
that's
that then, Yori? Is that a bigger picture question about the style where, it's all well and good, as Ange says and coaches them to be like, we want to be, relentless. But actually,
mm,
if that relentlessness is affecting our own ability to, have a breather when needed and be fit enough to not then concede the equalizer in a game like that, then that's self-defeating, isn't it?
yeah. I mean, I'm not saying that's where it's at, but I'm just saying, like, maybe in a league where you're not afforded the same space on the ball and stuff like that, means that you're going to try and have a lot of possession, but you're going to have to fight a lot more for it than in the Scottish league or Japanese league or whatever. So it's going to be more taxing on you, So and like the Premier League, even the smallest club, they cannot come out and are world class at their specific brand of football, So
True.
so you're basically your principles are being tested against other principles to the highest order, and of course, logically, that would say that it should be more taxing, more injuries, more everything, but once again, I'm not using it as an argument that it's not going to be viable. I'm also, I'm also seeing in terms of at least with some players, and of course it's obvious with Daki, but also just in terms of our forward line, I think the intensity has been growing. Kind of, it drops maybe. You have your micro spikes.
Yeah.
But the overall trend is a growing intensity of our forward line and midfield as well. So I think we're definitely heading in the right direction. But this is the cost also, I think, that we're seeing now. So
Do you
yeah.
think do you think had Solanke played that game we would have won?
I think if Solanke had played that game, actually, that's a really good question, because if Solanke had played that game, I think it wouldn't have taxed the rest of the squad as much.
Mm.
I think really, especially when we're on the ball, he's a huge relief for the rest of the players. I think Madison wasn't helping us in that game for me, even though he was trying his best. But the combination of him slowing the attack down, and in terms of trying to find the creative pass and all of that, and then also being lax, nonchalant on losing the ball and off the ball, that gives the rest of the players more to do, and I felt that going forward we were running into the old horseshoe kind of problem. They were really well organized. They were really quick to get into shape. We weren't that bad defensively, I thought. That was
Agreed.
probably the best part of our game. It's the forward line. That's maybe the central theme here is that, and if you go through the stats, and I know you do that, Barnaby,
Mhm.
what, and really the only thing that's lacking in terms of statistically in regards to Ants having a real chance at winning and title challenge or whatever is the consistency of the goals.
Mm.
Because even though we score a lot of goals, the distribution of those goals is very patchy. So we score 4-0, 3, we're not consistent in that manner to score well in all games. And also, the whole thing kind of breaks down when our forward line breaks down. I feel like that's been our weakness for quite some time.
No,
Uh,
I agree, and I think not only in the stats but in the eye test, you see how much. You talked earlier about the graph going upwards and us improving. You see that because of the improvement in the forward line, and Solanke has a lot to do with that. I was just thinking
mhm,
when you were talking about that, the forward line being the issue. I think that's true, but I think the other thing that's true that really stops us from going the next level is when you look at, and I hate to obviously compare to Arsenal, but when you look at them and what they do from set pieces, attacking set pieces,
mhm. Yeah,
how many free goals are they getting? So many free
exactly.
goals. And in games like that, when it's tight and you've got injuries, then I'm sorry. And I
Mhm,
know Big Ange likes to be, more old fashioned and kind of doesn't want to agree with modern football. And I listen, I don't like it. I think it looks embarrassing when Arsenal score a set piece and they, all the cameras go on the set piece coach or whatever. But
mhm,
it's almost like because the narrative is there, it makes Arsenal and their fans believe in it even more, and then it becomes true as a result. And I
mhm,
think I think we should be trying to look for ways to get those free goals, and we don't. We got quite a few kind of corners I think in the second half, and just whenever we get corners, we
mhm.
never look like we don't have like the big enough guys almost. You know what I mean? We're
No,
never a big
we're not.
threat.
Yeah, we don't have enough strong guys. I do think that if we get a big, strong six, that will be a big help. I don't think we need that many, but this is in general. Tottenham have rarely been thought of as a big, intimidating physical side. Kind of like Newcastle is
Mm.
now. They're technical as well, but their physicality is something you really need to get over
The
if you want to win.
Pochettino built that team to be pretty physical.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I agree. That's probably the most kind
Mm.
of physical, but still Tottenham type team, like
Yeah.
still a technical on the ball, champagne football, all of that stuff, but at least in this moment, we're not very physical, really. We're not lame ducks like we have been in periods, but we could definitely improve in that area. And I also think just in general with set pieces, like for example, a lot of people take Ange-ball as something new, innovative. Some people, kind of speak about it, the derogatory, like it's hipster ball and all of
Hmm.
this.
Hmm.
But a thing that is very new and is very important in football in general is set pieces. They're all serious coaches put a lot of emphasis on that, either defending or
Mm.
getting joy from it. And you see whole teams, basically make a living from set pieces. Iceland has had that as that's a very important thing in an Icelandic international squad. It's an important thing in Brentford. It's
Yeah.
like this is a way where where you can even out the odds, because it's a set piece,
Yeah.
so you can make some drills, and then the odds, if you get those drills down, the odds are going to give you your returns, but
Do you remember
I feel
Liverpool? Do you
like
remember
we're not.
Liverpool had the throwing coach for a while? Do you
Yeah,
remember that?
yeah, 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 yeah. But it's like any other kind of chancy game, Yeah, it's chancy, but there are structures that you can drill, and if you do that and you just do it enough, then the odds are gonna come good. I feel we're not consistent enough in that, When we do some drills, once, we see some periods where you see something that's clearly drilled
Mm,
and looks pretty good, and but then they go away from that, Then they just start doing short corners, or it doesn't seem like it's organized. And ants, if this is one of ants, like they need to figure it out type thing. I don't think that's what players should. I definitely think this is coaching
yeah,
and
yeah,
managerial, So,
I agree.
uh, but
Um,
I'm not. I don't know if he's saying that, but I'm just saying if that's the reasoning, then I don't agree with it.
yeah, no, look, I agree with you. I think it's like the thing with Arsenal is they just do the same. They pretty much do the same corner each time. They've
Yeah.
either got the guy blocking the keeper or they don't. But it's Gabriel coming in at the back stick, and he's just going to use his hugeness to try and outmuscle the defender and score. And he scores a lot of goals from it. But so I'm not. Listen, what I'm suggesting, I guess, is just stick at one thing, coach one thing, stick at one thing, and let's try and improve at it. Because at the moment, I agree with you. Like to whip one in swinger and then one out swinger and then a short one. It's like, well, none of them are working, so we're not improving at any. But anyway, I want to move on from that. I just want to
Yeah.
ask, because obviously for the whole rest of December, we've got Thursday, Sundays, and we've been playing, frankly, very badly in
Mhm.
on Sundays coming from Thursdays.
Yeah,
And
I
because
heard
of the
you.
injuries,
Yeah.
how are we going to find any consistency in this December with that unless we get all of our injuries back? It's hard to see that consistency coming, to be honest.
Yeah, and I don't think this will be the period that I think this is. I mean, if we give it the positive spin on it, or at least the way I see it, this period is the grind, the suck, the hurt that
Mm,
these guys need to go through to then come out in the new year at like being much more resilient and being in better shape and better rehearsed together and all of that, That's the good version of it. The bad version is the inconsistency will manifest in more discontent, both fan base and
mm,
squad and everything, and that will spiral, But yeah, I don't think this period. I would absolutely be surprised if we can start being consistent in this period, because, and it's also things like, it's dark, it's cold, the weather is
mm.
nasty. All of these things have historically had more effect, or at least enough of an effect on our players that you exactly see those inconsistency. And the same with now the extra Europa League games. That's not helping either. Those travels to the middle of nowhere in Europe.
Yeah.
That's exactly where we completely mess up usually, So
I don't think you can call Glasgow the middle of nowhere, Yori. I think you'll get some annoyed Scottish people there.
yeah, you could, if
Um,
you,
I just wanted
yeah,
to, I just checked like whilst you were talking there, and it's frustrating and it feels kind of typical. Chelsea are playing on Wednesday night. Spurs they then play Thursday night and Sunday. I feel like Tottenham might be a little less leggy on Thursday night against Bournemouth because we've had an extra day from the Sunday to prepare for that game, but then it'll be a day less than Chelsea going into that one. So
yeah, and well, I think also a big thing, two big things. I think Solanke is gonna play. At least I have him in my fantasy, so I'm locked in on that.
without even knowing what his illness is, Yori.
Yes, you have to roll the dice sometimes, Barnaby.
Okay.
And then Decky will also start. So those two alone give the rest of the team a lot of cover in terms of effort. They
Yeah.
they can, not that I'm like, not that I'm advocating for them to be laxed or whatever, but of course, if you got your two most resilient fighters, most energetic fighters with you, of course it's going to be an easier battle for you, So
Well, I'm kind of hoping that we've got a bit more energy in our legs against Bournemouth, so go there and hopefully can just find a way to win. And then, even though I would expect us to be quite fatigued, you'd hope that then the crowd would be properly behind us at home to Chelsea, because obviously last time we played Chelsea at home was the game that kind of ended our season last year. And that's one where, especially as there was a lot of complaining about the atmosphere at the ground last time, you hope that the Spurs fans there will really
Well,
answer that.
that's what I fear. This is one of those games that can go really badly wrong, really, because a Chelsea game at home, that's gonna sell a lot of tourist tickets, and or casual tickets, or what you want to call it, and that's when I feel the ground is usually the most kind of actually toxic, I would say,
Mm,
because that like when you hear, like, when I'm watching a TV at home,
mm,
so when I hear very little singing at the start,
mm.
then usually if they play badly, you'll have quite clear boos in
At
the
half
half.
time. Yeah.
So this is a narrative that I'm on. It's like the happy clappers who often leave in and so on, but don't follow the club too much. They are the most angry, toxic when it ruins their day out, and I think whether you're on the one side or the other side, I think we that are obsessed with it, we're kind of we're just rolling. It's just another week. It's just part of the whole thing, but I really, and like, you really, at least, and it might have to do with the miking and mixing and stuff like that, but when I'm watching it on TV, I within 10 minutes I kind of know
Mm,
if the crowd is gonna do anything for
mm.
the boys or not,
It's
so.
expectancy, isn't it? There is a kind of a dangerous mix of expectancy mixed with, almost like the slight anger from people who know that the ticket prices they're paying are the highest ticket prices in the land.
Yeah, I would go so far as to call it entitlement, and
Mm,
I don't condone it at all. I hate it, actually, but also I can see exactly what you're saying. Like, once it becomes expensive enough, and once you mix also just too many tourists into it, and too many, like, who are not, they don't know the lyrics of the song, and they don't like, so that kind of doesn't, it's not working like it will work in some other games, probably like a West Ham game or something like that could probably be better than a Chelsea game, because the Chelsea game is something you want to see. Spurs Chelsea is something a neutral even wants to
mm.
see. So
Well,
um
Hope,
but
hopefully,
anyway, like,
hopefully
I
there'll be
just.
enough. Hopefully there'll be enough die-hard Spurs fans there to make a racket, because look. Chelsea hate Spurs more than anyone, and as a result, we kind of hate them just as much back. So
Mhm.
hopefully there'll be enough there. I'm just going to ask you one more question before I let
Yeah.
you go. I want your prediction for this Bournemouth game on Thursday night, Yori. Put yourself out there.
Phew. Uh, so
You've got Solanke in your fancy team. Don't forget,
yeah,
against
I
his
think.
former club. There's a script.
Yeah, I think Solanke is gonna be fresh as Mountain Dew. So I think he's gonna have a brace, and we'll do a 3-1. I
3-1,
think.
Yori says. All right, I like that. I'm going to go 2-1 Spurs and then hope we can go into that Chelsea game really positively. Thanks so much, Yori, for coming on. Guys at home, thank you for watching. Please do give this video a like. Press subscribe if you're not already a subscriber for daily Tottenham Hotspur content. And you become a member. It really helps me make this daily content for you. Just £1 a month to be a member. All the details of how in the description box below. And let's hope we can go to Bournemouth and get that victory. Come on, you Spurs.